Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UPressPlay Sports. I'm your host and news editor, Richard Pereira. Joining me today is sports editor Cameron Priester and staff writer Zachary Watts. Hey guys, how's it been going this past week, especially with a bye week for football?
Um, I guess a bye week is a good thing. Get some much needed time off. Things haven't been necessarily going great as of late. Um, you know, Still some good outlooks for the other sports though. We've been playing well in regards to soccer, but overall in the sports world, it's always good when something's on. Always have something to watch. But in terms of football, which we'll get into in a minute, I think this bye week is much needed.
Yeah, it's much needed bye week for the football team. Hopefully they can work on some things, clean some stuff up. But we got a lot to talk about with them and soccer. We had a decent slate of NFL games this weekend, so a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and when it comes to FAU football, which we'll start off with first, they did have a bye week, entering the midway point of their season with a 2-4 record. Which is obviously not the best, not an ideal start for them. But they do come back this Saturday on October 15 at 6 p.m. as they take on the University of Rice Owls for homecoming weekend. So, what are expectations heading into this game, especially after the bye week?
Um, I mean, from an opponent's perspective, first, Rice surely isn't a pushover. They've played some competitive games against some quality opponents. I think they were within one score of Houston, who's a previously ranked team coming into the beginning of the year. They consistently put up points offensively, although they do give up a good amount of points as well. So their games always seem to be somewhat close. I think what will be very telling for us coming out of the bye week is how much we've actually prepared game plan wise. I know as of recent, we've been giving away a lot of points offensively, whether that be turning the ball over and setting up for big returns. Um, on defense, we've been giving up too many long drives. I've been seeing touchdown drives of 70, 80 yards, especially coming off the turnovers. It's just not being able to put things together. Like we said, looking for some consistency. Rice surely is an opponent that we're not going to look over at all by any means. I don't think we have the availability to look over any team anyway. I think the way we've been playing all year, if any team plays their best football, they can probably match up with us, which isn't the best to say, but it's a realistic outlook. We have to be on our A game at all times, and especially since this is a home game, we're back at home. I know we've been away the past 2 weeks with Purdue and North Texas, but now it's time to really lock in front of the home crowd and show how we can improve coming off some much needed rest.
Yeah, I just want to echo how much Zach said. Don't overlook Rice. They're not a pushover. They played Houston, who has a very good offense. They played them close. They have a very good defensive line, and that's kind of running the ball is kind of where FAU has excelled a lot in games. So maybe it'll be good to try to get Coachy started early, kind of get some of those layup throws to get his confidence back. But just get started early, and when you do go up, don't let your foot off the gas. Don't start making silly penalties. Just don't over. This is a good team. Don't overlook them. We can't afford them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. Especially when it comes to Rice. Last year they were 4-8, and now they have a 3-2 record. So it's pretty clear how much a difference a year makes for how much difference a year made for Rice, especially with the improvements they made throughout the past year. And regarding that defensive line, it's pretty clear that FEU's running game is going to have a huge task to fulfill when it comes to taking on that defensive line. So I do agree with you, Cameron, that they should get N'Kosi Perry started very early on in the game. Getting a couple of passes to LaJohntay Wester, who was leading the country at some point in receiving touchdowns. And he's still in the top 3. He's currently tied for second with 8 receiving touchdowns. So making sure that he gets those passes to Wester or Jamal Edrin or on occasion Jaquan Burton, that should be a high priority for Perry to really get into a good rhythm. to start the game. And once again, the game will take place on October 15, this Saturday at 6 p.m. at home. And for those watching at home, the broadcast will be on ESPN Plus. So be sure to cheer on your FAU Owls, not the Rice Owls. So moving on from FAU football, we have FAU men's soccer. And even though they had a hard time with the University of Tulsa, who was ranked 14th in the country at the time, suffering a 3-0 defeat, they did have some major improvements, taking on Charlotte, who was ranked number 13 in the country. After going down 2-0 in the first half, they scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game to get a 2-2 draw, which allowed them to get a point in conference play, which right now has them at 5th in the conference. So how do we think of men's soccer at this point of the season?
I mean, like we said last time out, it would be a tough slate of games coming up against 2 ranked opponents. In terms of the Tulsa game, traveling's always hard, especially going to another conference opponent. But I think one of the consistent issues I'm seeing in both of these games is some really excruciating slow starts in both sides. In the Tulsa game, it was almost impossible to overcome. We had gone down so early. I mean, I believe we had given up a goal like right away in that one, and then turn around in the second half, just giving up a goal with 11 seconds left. So, I mean, technically we should have only lost 2-0, but obviously once you're down that much, your energy level is kind of dying out. But then you come back and you play another ranked opponent in Charlotte, go down 2-0 again, extremely slow start, but suddenly you're able to wake up in the second half and you're able to get a draw out of it, which is extremely helpful. It's always helpful to not lose games. You never want to lose, especially against conference opponents. But I think the entire thing that I've kind of been seeing all year is just that first half kind of like wake up. Like we kind of get into games. We're not really fully on the offensive. I don't know if we're trying to just like feel teams out and then really explode in the second half. I can't really say exactly what our game plan is going into it. Obviously, you never want to go down in any scenario, but in terms of shot differential in both games, in the Tulsa game, we got completely outmatched in shots. We were barely even able to get any offensive possession. And then the second one, it was just making the shots count. I mean, we only outshot Charlotte in the second half, 9-6, I believe. And we were able to convert 2 goals there. So that was extremely helpful to get that done. Not the results you're really looking for, especially against ranked opponents, but I mean, then again, it's better than coming back home 0-2. So there's always a silver lining in these games. So I'm glad we were able to pull a draw out of at least one of them. I don't think we have any more ranked opponents, I believe. Yeah, no more ranked opponents. So in my eyes, that means the scheduling will get a little bit easier, which is always good. So yeah, maybe they can use that to kind of help lift their spirits, know the quality product that they're capable of. You've played ranked opponents, you saw what you can do against them. So now let's see how you perform against some lesser opponents. How can you put it together, not maybe eliminate the slow starts, really come out and take it to some of these teams, finishing it out.
Yeah, that Tulsa loss was rough, but it's a top 25 team on the road you're taking on. You kind of got to just take some of those losses to the chin. But I said on here before that I'm not like big on moral victories, but you kind of have to feel pretty good about playing a very, very good Charlotte team who's also in the top 15. You've got to feel good about playing them well. And hopefully they can kind of take that into the next game, which is Temple, who's really struggled this year. They're sitting at 2-7-2 right now overall. They've yet to win a conference game. They've yet to win on the road, and they're coming here. So as long as, like you said, they can get started early, not put themselves in a situation like Charlotte where they have to kind of like string together a bunch of goals in the final 10 minutes. They should be able to get past Temple this week.
Yeah, definitely. And I do agree with you, Zach, that I do feel that this team is testing out opponents in the first half. Then going all out in the second half. But I think that's just making the right adjustments to
Mhm.
ensure that they have the best chance of getting scoring goals and probably getting a win here and there. But yeah, I do think that this team plays much better when they make the proper adjustments to prepare for the second half and be at their possible best. And as you said, Cameron, they do take on Temple this Friday, October 14th at 7 p.m. Temple, as you said, 2-7-2 record. They're in the bottom of the American Athletic Conference this season. So um, it should be expected for FAU to come out with a win on Friday. But we do have to remember that they did lose to North Florida 1-0, who was winless at that point. So it should be important for FAU to not underestimate teams who have yet to win a game in either the regular season or conference play this season. And moving on from men's soccer, we have women's soccer. And women's soccer, this past Friday, October 7th, against UTEP, dominated in very convincing fashion, winning 6-0 with help from a hat trick from Thelma Hermans-Dotier. Scored 3 goals, which was the first time since 2019 that an FAU player was able to score 3 goals in a game. So, what are our thoughts on women's soccer dominating the way they did last Friday?
Um, in terms of competition, it's not really something I'd consider something marking down on your calendars outside of it being senior night. I want to give a huge shout out to our seniors. They performed exceptionally well tonight, and they've always been a huge factor for the team throughout the year. To be on the team for that long, always means something to them. So the fact that they were able to put up this amount of points in this matchup probably meant a lot to them. Like you said, you brought up the hat trick. That was huge for us. Haley Landris also getting a goal, and then Ellen also getting her first goal on the year as well. So congrats to her as well. But I mean, we kind of just handled business as you would expect from a senior night game. I don't want to say you schedule anyone like super easy, but you schedule someone who you think you can beat, so that way you give your chance to seniors to really play and perform in front of the home crowd. And we did exactly that. It wasn't one of those games where we played under expectations. I think we played exactly how we should have. We controlled the pace the entire time, got ahead early and often, completely blew them out of the water. I mean, 6-0 is extremely impressive. And that's only going to raise the team morale. I think that's exactly what you wanted to do. That's kind of what you envisioned for your senior night. And it kind of gives you that mental push going in the rest of the year. I know we have another away game in Kentucky against Western Kentucky. And then, we only have 2 more home games left, but the rest of our opponents are Conference USA games. So it is extremely important that we finish these games out strong. I'm extremely happy for our seniors, extremely happy for the women's soccer team for the way they've been playing thus far this year. And I'm really hoping they can finish things out strong.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see that for the seniors on their senior night. It dominated in every phase of the game. Thelma had the hat trick and 22 shots by FAU compared to UTEP 0 is just kind of crazy stat line. I just think this is like the perfect time for a win like this. They're in a good spot in the conference standings, and they have only 4 games left. A win like this is, like you said, good for morale. As they are finishing out this season, hopefully that they don't as they go on the road to Western Kentucky this week. They haven't. They're 4 and they only have 1 loss at home and 4 wins. So their strength has kind of been at home. But hopefully they can kind of keep it rolling on the road in Western Kentucky this.
Yeah, definitely. And while shouldn't it be expected for them to take 22 shots with 12 on target every game? It shouldn't at all. But as long as they keep up that type of pace offensively, they should be in a good place in conference play. Their next 2 games will be this Thursday, October 13th at 7 p.m. in Bowling Green, Kentucky, taking on Western Kentucky. And they return home on Sunday, October 16th at 1 p.m. to take on Louisiana Tech. So best of luck to the Lady Owls, and hopefully they improve their standing in conference play, as they are 5th in the conference, which they're while it's basically in the middle they are still very good as one of those teams in the conference. And that concludes our section with FAU sports. Now we move on to national sports and we head on to the NFL. Well, a lot of things that happened this past week. A very bad offensive game Thursday night between the Denver Broncos and the Colts. Yeah, the Colts. Who was more trash, Russell Wilson or Matt Ryan?
I'm gonna have to say Russell Wilson in this regard, and the reason I say that, look, I know they came out with a report saying he's dealing with shoulder injury, even I think a strained pec muscle. You can say all these excuses for injuries that you want, but look, if you pay a quarterback $250 million, I'm gonna expect you to win a lot of football games, and a lot of it is gonna come down to your shoulders. Like, what are you able to do in these games? I'm gonna say overall, the primetime games on Thursday Night Football. I know this is Amazon Prime's first year, but man, did they get dealt a bad hand in terms of quality production. I mean, if you want to look at it overall, I mean, every game thus far has just been bad, and then even the Thursday night game this week. I mean, Commanders at Bears, like, oh my, is there any other day you don't want to turn it into football anymore?
What are you talking about? Commanders Bears is gonna be game of the year. What are you talking about?
Oh, we'll see. I for my sake, I hope so. I always enjoy watching football, especially this time of year. So, maybe Justin Fields will throw over 200 yards. I am looking forward to Brian Robinson being back. So that's always good. But yeah, in terms of Thursday night football, especially this Colts Broncos game, that was terrible. I did bet under 42.5 and Alex Pierce over 37.5. So both those bets hit for me. So I was happy at least getting what I deserved out of that.
Yeah. To answer your question, Rich, I'm gonna have to agree with Zach on Russ. I don't think like anyone was going out there really expecting Matt Ryan to kind of light it up. To be fair, neither was anybody was expecting really Russ. But like you said, like when you're getting paid as much as he is, you're kind of expected to make even a struggling receiver room like his look good. And it just wasn't. It was terrible to watch through the entire thing. Yeah, you got to be better than that if you're getting paid that much. But for this Thursday, it's sorry NFL fans. It's going to be another brutal one. The Bears, Justin Fields looked improved. On Sunday, he's being better at getting the ball out faster. He's being better at not sticking to his first read and like working through the progression to the second and third reads. But he has no help at all. There's multiple really bad drops. He had one of probably the best plays of his career, probably a 45, 50-yard touchdown run called back because of blocking the back. He has no supporting cast at all. Although N'Keal Harry is finally off injury reserve, so he'll make his Bears debut. It's going to be another brutal one, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I want to talk about is how the new concussion protocols for the NFL are being implemented. And coincidentally, it happened to the Miami Dolphins once again. Against the New York Jets, Teddy Bridgewater went down. And while video showed he wasn't really stumbling, he was still taken out the game due to concussion protocols. And Dolphins had to deal with Skylar Thompson, their third string quarterback, as they couldn't pull out the win in New York, as the Jets are pretty solid this season. So what are our thoughts on the new concussion protocols for the NFL?
Oh, if it isn't the consequences of my actions. If you would have just handled the Tua situation better, you wouldn't have had to lose your backup as well. You kind of see the NFL now being caught in a backpedal a little bit. Now they're so scared of being brought up in any more scandals and any more issues when it comes to players' health that you kind of have to be on the defensive. I watched the play multiple times. Sauce Gardner came off the edge, blew Bridgewater up, but big hits are part of the game. And I know we want to protect quarterbacks, but we kind of see how protecting the quarterback has really affected the game overall this week. We saw in the Raiders-Chiefs game, How was that a roughing the passer? We saw in the Falcons Bucks game. How was that a roughing the passer? I do not know. But then again, it's just like I wanna get mad at the officials, but they're trained and taught to call the game a certain way, and that's more on the rule set that we have in place for these players, and it's just not a quality product, like what else do you want edge rushers to do when attacking the quarterback? How else do you want them to approach it? Like, these are players too, they suit up just like any other position. We don't protect running backs when they get blown up by linebackers. We don't really care that much when a wide receiver gets blown up over the middle. Like, we're really picking and choosing who we choose to protect in this league, it seems like. And it's just not fun to watch. I want a quality product. I want competitive games. And the last thing I want is for fan bases to say, oh, well, the only reason we lost is because we got, a couple calls against us. Like that's not how it should be. That's not how it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, for once I kind of feel for officials in the NFL, because they're kind of put in a weird position where they want to protect the players, but they also want to preserve, the game and, the physicality of the game, but in a safe way. And it just really sucks because you see the thing or the situation with Teddy where he is like kind of forced out of the game. We're not doctors. I'm not sure if it's came out whether he has a concussion or not, but he was forced out of the game because of the concussion protocol. And that's just being safe. But on the other hand, you have these rules that are trying to keep the quarterback safe that are affecting the outcomes of games, and it just stinks because it's the game's changing, and it's we're trying to protect the players, but we also want to see football. You see Micah Parsons on Twitter talking about, oh, if this is how it's gonna be, we might as well change it to 7-on-7, and he has a point. Like, football, it's called the blood sport for a reason. It's a physical game, but we do want to keep players safe. So I just hope the league can kind of find a common ground to where players are safe, but still.
Yeah, I will say, in regards to the new helmets, I don't really know if they're that much safer because I'm seeing a lot more guys collapse due to, I guess, concussion-like symptoms or just completely losing cognitive function in what seems to be the most normal plays that I've seen. At least, we kind of saw it with Naheem Hines. It didn't look like a crazy head injury, but just randomly collapsed. We're seeing it throughout the league with the new helmets. I don't know if it's because of the helmets. I don't know if players are hitting harder. I don't know exactly what it is. I hope that they took a deep look into it because I've never seen so many players just like not be able to gain composure in games. It feels, maybe our attention's just drawn to it more, I suppose. That could be a reasoning. But at the end of the day, it just looks like more and more players are just having worse and worse head injuries. And I don't know why. It's really confusing to me.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Zach, because I was watching the Colts game like a hawk towards the beginning because I had Naeem Hines starting in fantasy this week, and I originally missed that hit on Naeem Hines, and when I went back and watched it, I was like, it just didn't look. It looked he got hit, he got a nice thud, but it didn't look something like that serious of a hit, and he was wearing one of those new like Power Ranger looking futuristic helmets, and it's like maybe you're right. Like, are these? Because it seems like this season especially, it's like abnormal number of it. Maybe there is something.
Yeah, definitely. And as we look at the other games across the league, the Giants off to a very good start, stealing a win against Green Bay, 27-22. The Bills in cruise control, taking down the Steelers 38-3, with Josh Allen throwing for 442 yards. The Browns continuing to lose again, 30-28 to the Chargers. The Patriots shutting down Jared Goff, 29-0. And We have already talked about the Dolphins Jets game. The Bucks surviving 21-15 against Atlanta despite a late comeback from them, and the Eagles staying undefeated with a 20-17 win. And of course, as we mentioned, Monday night football between the Chiefs and Raiders, with the Chiefs squeezing by 30-29. So it's definitely an interesting set of games. And I did watch the Monday night game, and it was despite all the controversy, I did have fun seeing the Chiefs explode offensively in the second half to come back and win it. So it was a very good game overall.
Yeah. I'll say a couple things about some quarterbacks here. First of all, in the Giants Packers game, unfortunately, I think Daniel Jones is playing just under poor performance enough to keep his job for another year, which I don't know if it's going to help the Giants, but I don't really think he's the answer for them. Another question I have is, if Cooper Rush upsets the Eagles and takes a loss away from them, what is that quarterback situation going to look like? And lastly, yes. And the last thing I'll say, in regards to the Chiefs Raiders game, I think the analytics could tell Josh McDaniels that jumping out of a 4-story building would get him to the ground faster than taking the stairs, and he'd probably jump out of the 4 stories. I am so against analytics in football these days, especially like read your surroundings, understand the situation you're in. There's no reason you go for 2 there. There is no reason, because even if you get it, the Chiefs are still going to drive down and score anyway. Why put yourself in that situation? But yeah, I mean, that's all pretty much I have to say about this week of games. I'm interested in what you guys think about Cooper Rush, the analytics, all of it. But Chiefs, poor.
I'll take a stab at both of those. I think it's gonna be ugly in Dallas if Cooper Rush wins that, because this is kind of a similar situation to how Dak took over from Romo. It's not the exact same, but Romo wasn't exactly performing, and they have this talent on the bench that is showing flashes, and that fan base is ruthless and kind of forced the Cowboys' hand and then ended up with Dak. So I wonder how that's kind of gonna play out, because with Dak getting paid, yeah, that'll just be interesting to see. As far as the Monday night game, the more I think about it, the more I don't want to say I'd go for 2, because in a vacuum I wouldn't, but I kind of understand it a little more because they're down by 1. If they get the 2-point conversion, like you said, they're not gonna really stop them from driving down into field goal range. If they make a stop, it's more than likely gonna be a turnover of some sort. If they get the turnover, they don't really have, and they got that 2-point conversion, they're not gonna have to, go back and score again. But it, like you said, like analytics, there's like a million different ways to look at it. So I don't necessarily fault McDaniels. I will say about him is they have got to scheme up a way to get someone other than Devontae Adams the ball. That late touchdown he had, he was like, that was not a good idea to throw. He was double covered, and ended up being a good throw, and he made a great catch. But it seems like Derek Carr just can't figure out any other way to get the ball out through the air to anybody other than Devontae. And they have other options, like they have Renfro, but it just seems like they can't figure out how to use those.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a little more time, and I think we can talk a little bit about the NBA. So preseason is about to end this week. The season opener is like this Tuesday on the next Tuesday on the 18th. And what are our expectations heading into the season for certain teams in the league?
I'm going to say this. I think everyone's seen the videos of the projected number 1 overall pick. I think we are going to see some of the nastiest tanking we've ever seen in our lives. I think we are going to see some like old Knicks lineups rolled out when they used to pull out Luke Cornett. The only reason I bring him up is because he's a cousin of mine, and I just like to take a stab at him. But yeah, like we're just gonna see some lineups where like once they realize they're not in playoff contention, they're gonna be rolling out some G League lineups, and it's gonna be terrible to tune into. But personally, I don't think the fan bases are gonna mind. You know, in their minds, they're like, look, tank all you want, you better get him. You better sign him. We've seen his prowess as a 7-footer. He has the playmaking ability. He can shoot threes, spot up and on the move. We've seen his defense in the paint and on the perimeter. Like he's just a complete anomaly to the game. You know, it was almost like watching Kristaps Porzingis when he came into the league. Obviously, it's not as good anymore, but like when he first came on the scene, how much of a unicorn he truly was. I think we're kind of getting the same vibes from this guy. I truly think he is incredible. I can't wait to see him in the league, but in terms of the quality product that the NBA is going to start rolling out for this season, it may get ugly.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's insane to watch, someone with his like build and size, like move with the ball and shoot from outside like the way he does. And yeah, there are gonna be a bunch of teams going after that pick. I just hope for his own sake, Wembanyama, I hope I pronounced that right. That kind of the media stops with the he's like a better prospect than LeBron James. Like, let's just not do that to him because it's a
Yeah.
crazy game they play. A lot of things can happen, and just like let's not put like that those expectations on him. Let's just let him play basketball. Let's let him just let him enjoy this process without those kind of unnecessary expectations. But I think I kind of agree with like you said, the product of the NBA we're gonna see kind of because of that. There's been complaints in the past that like the um, regular season games are just not a very good quality product. A lot of blowouts. A lot of dudes not a lot of star players sitting out with like the kind of load management. But I think we'll kind of see some of sort of like the same names. I think the Bucks are just gonna kind of, as far as the East, are gonna kind of continue to dominate. I think they'll be a team we'll be looking out late for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as we look at the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, I do think the San Antonio Spurs are the clear front runners to get him. Like I think they don't compared to all the rosters, I think they have the worst and are pretty much geared towards having the one of the worst records we've seen in NBA history. Even though they have Greg Popovich being their head coach, but I don't think Popovich would mind as long as he gets Wembanyama for the #1 pick. So, and of course, the Utah Jazz will be in the running. It's pretty clear they're in rebuild mode after trading away Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. They'll definitely be in the running for that. The OKC Thunder is also in the hunt for the lottery projections. So, and the Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic, those are teams you should look out for when it comes to being in the hunt for the lottery. And as we look at the rest of the NBA, as you mentioned, Cameron, the Bucks, for me, the Celtics, I think those two teams should be in the top two of the Eastern Conference. And the Western Conference, I personally think it's going to be a bloodbath. There's like a lot of teams that are pretty good and a lot of teams and a couple of teams who could miss out, even though they don't technically have terrible rosters, so to speak. So, and with the Lakers having retooled their roster, going from old last year to younger this year, uh, and then the Clippers, if they're at full strength, they are potential title contenders, especially with adding John Wall during the offseason. It's definitely going to be an interesting regular season to watch.
Yeah. Sorry to touch back up on the lottery sweepstakes, but you brought up OKC, and I just completely remembered how they have nearly 2,000 picks. How much picks do you think they'd be willing to give up to get that #1 overall pick? And if you're a team with the #1 overall pick, how much are you like? How many picks would it take for you to give up that first overall pick. Because I mean, either way, I feel like you're sitting in a pretty solid position. But I, I wish I could pull it up right now. How many protected and unprotected picks the OKC have right now? It's not too important. I just know it's a lot. But in regards to that, I think that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. There'll be a lot of pre-draft movement with picks. But back to what you said about each conference, given the Celtics situation, with the whole Ime Okuda stuff, I don't really want to touch on that. It already angers me thinking about it. But you signed Blake Griffin. It seems like their roster's more bolstered up to have the correct pieces. It's just whether or not they can be coached up. Personally, this better be a Jason Tatum MVP season, especially after how disappointed I was with the finals performance. But I I hope Draymond Green beats his triple single allegations just to spite Jordan Poole. I'm the biggest Jordan Poole hater. I will stand by that. I'm not a fan of him. I think he's getting a little too arrogant. He's a great player, but I just think he's a little cocky as far as playing style goes right now.
As far as your question about OKC, I think I'd be willing to give up a good bit of those because it feels like they kind of have their like young base a little bit going already with Shy and Josh Giddey, and hopefully Chet works out for them. I think he is. I think he's another really really special kind of prospect they got. But as far as the West, I don't want to say it's wide open because I think the Warriors are gonna be, even with all like this kind of drama that's going on, I think it's kind of getting blown out of proportion, just a little bit. Um, I think they'll be in contention for the West. I'm interested to see kind of how the Suns look. They've been kind of disappointing in the postseason, but um, they still kind of their base is still kind of same. I'm just interested to see with all like the kind of drama they've had going on off the court, um, in the off season, if that plays a role. I'm not big on the Lakers going into this year. LeBron's gonna be LeBron. I'm sure he'll still light up the stat sheet, but I think they're kind of putting lipstick on a pig with the moves they made on the off season. I don't think they kind of address like the major flaws of that team. So also with the Wolves, what are they going to look like? The Timberwolves. They got Rudy. I really like Anthony Brown. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what the West.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how the regular season goes, no matter what, at the end of the day. With that, that'll be it for this episode of UPressPlay Sports. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, click the bell to keep up with notifications from us. Also be sure to go on upressonline.com to keep up with news, sports, and more content alike. To follow us on Twitter, it's for me, at Rich26Pereira, for Cameron, at PrehistorCameron, and for Zach, at ZachWatts1_. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.